Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, hello.
Afternoon. I want to provide a quick update further to our last briefing a couple of days ago. Starting with Minister Joly, who during her visit to the region has so far engaged with the Israeli, Palestinian, Jordanian, and Qatari foreign ministers, as well as the Commissioner General for the UN Refugee and Works Agency. She will be continuing to make outreach calls to counterparts. In her discussions, Minister Joly condemned Hamas's terrorist attack on Israel and spoke about the importance of protecting all civilians and aid workers, as well as the urgent need for humanitarian access. She further thanked her counterparts for their continued help in facilitating the departure of Canadians from the region. Prime Minister Trudeau is also engaging extensively on this crisis. On Friday, he spoke with Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas, where the two underscored that Hamas does not represent the legitimate aspirations of the Palestinian people. Prime Minister reaffirmed Canada's support for the right of the Israeli and Palestinian people to live in peace and security. In Gaza,
the catastrophic situation is a grave concern for the government. Hundreds of thousands of people are displaced. The population cannot access the first necessity products. It's essential that humanitarian aid may make it to those civilians in need. We continue to follow the situation closely and are calling all parties to respect international humanitarian law. The Embassy of Canada in Israel and our Bureau of Representation in Ramallah is still open. The personnel in our missions will continue supporting Canadians throughout the weekend, and this in extremely difficult circumstances. That being said, I would like to turn to my colleague Julie Sunday, who can give you more details on the consular response of Canada, and we will be happy to take questions later. Thank you, Alexander.
To be here to provide some updates on the latest details regarding consular needs and the support being provided to Canadians, including for assisted departures. First of all, I'd like to share the latest numbers from the Emergency Watch and Response Center. In the last 24 hours, we've responded to over 800 inquiries. We've received almost 4,200 inquiries now since the beginning of the crisis. There were over 60 responders working overnight and throughout this weekend at the Watch Center. We are deploying 25 members of the Standing Rapid Deployment Team to reinforce our missions in Tel Aviv, Ramallah, Athens, Cairo, and Beirut. Our missions on the ground throughout the region continue to provide consular services to Canadians throughout the weekend. For the
update of the registration service abroad, currently in Israel, more than 6,800 Canadians are registered, and more than 440 Canadians are in Cisjordania and the Gaza Strip. Of that number, we are currently helping more than 3,300 permanent residents and their families.
Since our last technical briefing on Friday, sadly, one Canadian who was missing has now been confirmed as deceased, and we have had confirmation of another death. As a result, Global Affairs Canada is aware of the deaths of 5 Canadians. We also continue to follow up on the cases of 3 other missing Canadians. The
departures with assistance from Tel Aviv to Athens are continuing without incident. I'm happy to inform you that from now to the end of the day, more than 1,000 passengers would have left Israel aboard Canadian flights to Athens. 2 flights will happen today. The first flight included 90 passengers and left Tel Aviv at 1700 hours, local hours, to arrive in Athens at 1900 hours. The second flight anticipates the flight of 173 passengers. The departure is imminent, and the arrival is anticipated at 2100 hours in Athens. We are anticipating doing 2 other flights for the AFC tomorrow. We are continuing other potential passengers from Israel to ensure that they're ready to travel, registering them onto flights and facilitating their travel to Canada.
Let me now update you on our efforts to assist departures from the Palestinian territories. For the Gaza Strip, the situation remains extremely fluid and insecure. Approximately 300 Canadians, permanent residents, and their families have reached out to us for assistance and for support to exit Gaza. I can share that this is a very diverse group. Some are individual Canadian citizens, others are permanent residents. Many are families, which include a mix of Canadians, permanent residents, and their family members. As mentioned at our last briefing, we were hoping to have an opportunity for an exit through Rafah on Saturday, which sadly did not materialize. We remain in constant communication with allies, the UN, and the governments in the region to facilitate these departures. Minister Joly has been engaging directly with her counterparts to secure their support. As was mentioned on Friday, it is increasingly challenging to communicate with Canadians in the Gaza Strip, given that electricity is down and telecoms are affected. However, we are using all available methods to stay in contact, to give them the latest information, and to be ready to take advantage of any window for a safe exit. Our mission in Cairo is also engaging with Egyptian authorities to ensure that once they are through the crossing, Canadians will be transported to Cairo and can return to Canada. For assisted departure options from the West Bank, we continue to develop ground transportation options to Jordan and are consulting local authorities so that we can transport people by bus. Our missions in Ramallah and Jordan are preparing to support this movement across the border. We are in direct contact with all interested Canadians in the West Bank to help them prepare, and we will share further details in the coming days. This weekend, we have updated our travel advice to alert Canadians to a number of possible border closures in the region. The situation on the ground is unpredictable, and border crossings can close unexpectedly. Canadians in the area should verify the status of the border crossings before travel. We are also advising Canadians in Jordan about possible large-scale protests in the area and to avoid demonstrations and gatherings. The situation in Lebanon continues to be unstable. Whole-of-government planning is actively taking place to prepare for all possible scenarios, including the pre-positioning of some of our SRDT officers in the region. As mentioned in previous briefings, there are many Canadian citizens and permanent residents in Lebanon. Due to security risks, we are advising that they should avoid all travel to the area along the border with Israel. Canadians who are thinking about traveling to Lebanon are strongly advised to avoid all non-essential travel. This is simply not the time to go there. Canadians who are already in Lebanon should think about whether you really need to be there. The situation is volatile, and if you don't need to be there, you should consider leaving while commercial means are still available. Thank you. I will now pass to Vice Admiral Octoloni.
Okay, thanks, Julie. I'm the Chief of Operations Canadian Armed Forces, and I'll be very brief. En réponse à une demande d'aide fédérale de Fer Mondial Canada,
the Canadian Armed Forces quickly put in place a platform in Athens, Greece, and is supporting the repatriation of Canadians from Israel with 2 Airbus CC-150.
The Canadian Forces have been supporting Global Affairs Canada with the assisted departure of passengers from Ben Gurion Airport into Athens, Greece since the 12th of October. And as noted by Julie just a few minutes ago, we've already conducted 2 flights today. The first is now landed in Athens, Greece. The second has just landed in Tel Aviv, Aviv. And by the end of the day, as noted by Julie, we'll have repatriated over 1,000 Canadians from Israel to Athens. And I think I'll leave it there.